By a very slim party line vote, 217 to 215, the Republican-led House passed a budget blueprint that includes $2 trillion in spending cuts and extending the tax cuts that President Trump signed in his first term. House Speaker Mike Johnson says House Republicans are delivering on President Trump's full agenda.
We have a lot of hard work ahead of us, but we are going to deliver the America First agenda. We're going to deliver all of it, not just parts of it, and this was the first step in that process.
Voting no was Phoenix Democratic Congressman Greg Stanton, who joins us live on Arizona's Morning News. Why the no?
Well, it has devastating impacts on families across Arizona as a direct result of this vote. Once it's fully implemented, over 500,000 Arizonans are going to lose their health care. All of the Medicaid expansion that Jan Brewer led on just a few years ago, which has been so successful in increasing people's access to health care coverage, all of that goes away. So you're going to massively cut back on people's access to health care at the same time giving increased tax cuts to the largest corporations and wealthiest Americans. I think that's a very difficult thing to explain politically, but more importantly, on a human level, it's bad for health care and bad for families.
But, did this bill actually cut Medicaid spending? House Majority Leader Steve Scalise said it did not.
Well, you can say whatever he's going to say, but there is no possible way to cut $2 trillion out of our budget, which the vast majority is going to come out of Energy and Commerce Committee. That's in the bill itself. And the only way to accomplish that is massive cuts to the Medicaid program. That's assuming they keep their hands off of the Medicare program. So they're being disingenuous by suggesting that that is not the case because they don't want to actually have to deal with the real ramifications of this decision that was made yesterday. You simply can't get the massive level of new tax cuts that they want to accomplish without doing cuts that will impact hundreds of thousands, over 500,000 Arizonans in their access to health care. What that directly means is that they won't be able to see a doctor. And the only way for them to get health care would be to go to an emergency room, which means it actually ultimately increases the cost of health care in our system. So it's bad for people, bad for health care. It's bad fiscal policy as well because so much of the Arizona economy, our hospitals, our community health centers, they also benefit from this program because they provide these services. So it's going to be really harmful to the Arizona economy as well.
Phoenix Democratic Congressman Greg Stanton joining us here on KTAR and Arizona's Morning News. Let's talk tax cuts because I think that there is a very large portion of Americans who believe that they pay too much tax, and yet you say that the tax cuts really deliver for the people who are wealthier. When you say wealthy, what do you mean, and how can we get these tax cuts to filter down to regular people?
Well, remember, I personally was elected in 2018, right after they did the last Trump tax cuts. And the reason why people were so angry at that time and gave Democrats the majority in the House at that time is because the tax cut went so disproportionately to benefit the largest corporations and the wealthiest Americans. Myself and most Democrats, we want middle-class tax cuts through the child tax credit. We want to ease the burden on small businesses and working class and middle class Americans. But these tax cuts so disproportionately are for the wealthiest Americans and largest corporations, while at the same time taking away health care from over 500,000 Arizonans. You can see why this is so, number one, on a human level bad, but on a political level, such a poor choice by the other side.
When we hear about middle-class tax cuts, and I want to push back on you just a little bit on this, you hear, child tax credit. Not all middle-class Americans have children, or their children are grown. They're still middle class, and those people don't seem to get a break. So where do they get theirs?
Okay, so but what you're talking about, what the Trump tax cuts were back in 2017 that the American people were very angry about, is that middle-class Americans didn't get the benefit of that. It was really the wealthiest, largest corporations and wealthiest Americans. And, of course, the child tax credit is spread across people all across the United States of America. So middle-class Americans will greatly benefit from that program. So I'm going to push back on you to suggest that the middle class would not benefit significantly from the child tax credit.
That's Phoenix Democratic Congressman Greg Stanton joining us live on Arizona's Morning News. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching Arizona's Morning News. Click to watch more from KTAR News and hit the button in the middle to subscribe.